A recent study concluded that more than 20% of companies that receive a phase 2 were funded entirely or in part due to the prospect of an SBIR award. This suggests that the SBIR awards have a strong effect on business formation. To what extent does this business formation translate to job creation?
Well, small businesses typically are a source of a large source of new job creation. It's pretty clear that program fills an important funding gap that permits small businesses to exist and then eventually to expand, and after that, if they're successful, to prosper. All of those lead to new jobs.
Mr. Dorfler, one challenge associated with the program is the need to increase the number of small businesses that are applying for SBIR awards. The NHA reports that the SBIR applications have been decreasing since 2005. Agencies will need to grow their applicant pools in order to keep the awards as competitive as they have been in previous years. What steps can be taken to encourage more individuals and firms to apply for SBIR awards?
Thank you. A couple of things, I believe. One is that I think that the agencies can get the word out and tell more about what their goals are. Secondly, this ruling around majority ownership over 51% is eliminating a number of companies from even trying to participate. Thirdly, there's another there's called the affiliation rule, where there's more than 500 employees in an affiliation. We have a venture capital investors. Many of these investors invest in literally tens of companies at one time, and right now, if the way the rule's written is if a venture capitalist, if they invest in another company, the number of employees in that company would count against our 500 employees. In the biotech space, I have 20 employees. That same venture capitalist could have invested in 5 or 6 or even 10 different startups, and maybe one is a retail company where they have several hundred employees. It's virtually impossible for me to understand what our investors, who they're invested in, and how many employees they have. So another critical part of this would be to fine-tune that affiliation rule so that it's easier for us to know when we can participate, because it does take time for us to focus in on this program, and we need more certainty around the application process.
Mr. Bean, do you have any recommendations as to how can we get more individuals to apply or to encourage?
To encourage companies to apply for the SBIR program? Well, again, I think a lot of that can be done through local programs. I know that the Center for Innovative Technology does multiple training programs throughout the state. They have an annual training program that's available to companies, and that's been quite successful. What they've been able to do is to push it out through the communities in Virginia, through the local technology councils and other organizations like the Hampton Roads Research Partnership. So I don't know how other states may be organized, but certainly through programs where you push it out through area technology councils and other economic development agencies, even town economic development agencies, I think you would find that most of them would be more than happy to support seminars, training programs, to let companies know that these SBIR programs are available.
Dr. Bell, I know that you mentioned you got $600 million foundation.
We've invested $600 million in medical research.
And from your testimony, it is apparent that the SBIR program is playing a critical role in developing potential cures for cystic fibrosis. Without this funding, where would the progress stand in the fight against the disease?
Well, clearly it would not be at where we are today. I say we have 30 products that are currently in clinical trials or in late-stage development for cystic fibrosis. I just reviewed, we have about 10 of these products that have received of SBIR support at various stages over the years. I mentioned PTC directly. This is an oral drug that would not be where we are today. That's treating the basic defect in cystic fibrosis. This is incredible. We wouldn't have an opportunity to have an effort in the area of gene therapy with a company in Ohio called Copernicus. We have another product that is in clinical trials that is also treating the basic defect with support to Parion Pharmaceutical Company. So all of these things are really important in our effort. We try to pick up as much of these things as possible. Many of the things have done support, the SBI support them in an early stage. We then come along, and then hopefully it's leveraged to other companies. But you know, again, the important thing to recognize, and I want to emphasize to you, is that we are fortunate we can make these kinds of investments and create this pipeline. But we have an incredible opportunity in biomedical research today. We know the genes, so much about the genes, the basic defect, of so many things. And unless we take this opportunity and use the SBIR programs to translate this information we know at the basic research level to finding new therapies and move forward, this is what the SBIR does. It's really following with what the Congress has asked Dr. Zahuni to do, and it's a perfect example of how we can take basic research and leverage it to new therapies, and that's what the SBIR program does.
Thank you. Mr. Dorfler, for life science firms undertaking such research, SBIR is often only one component of their funding. Given the high cost of developing and testing a health-related product or technology, how important is it that life science firms have access to as many sources of funding as possible?
Well, it's very important. As I mentioned in my testimony, it's a very risky endeavor. It's a very expensive endeavor, and we need to be accessible to all forms of funding. We also want to ensure that the agencies have a certain amount of flexibility. For instance, NIH. We're not looking for any dollar hard caps. We think that, again, these programs need to be judged upon their merits. There have been some programs that actually got higher levels of funding because they were so profoundly important to moving some of these cures against some diseases. So again, I think it's important that we have SBIR, both 1 and 2. In most cases, if you can get through a phase 2 SBIR, you can find and leverage that with private capital, which is a great thing for companies and great things for developing new medicines.
Thank you. Mr. Farrell, NASA and DOD have developed initiatives within their agencies' SBIR programs to help facilitate partnerships and, in some cases, mentoring between prime contractors and small firms that have received SBIR awards. How can we encourage more partnerships between prime contractors and firms that have been awarded SBIR contracts?
Yeah, number one, everybody in the Department of Defense, in the industry, and for NASA as well, recognizes the power of the SBIR and the small firms that are part of that. So what you need is a lot more of bringing together the large and the small firms and giving them the opportunity to have a conversation about what's going on inside the industry. In my association, as an example, we have a National Small Business Conference once a year where we bring large and small firms together in a kind of a matchmaking. We also, this last year, for the first time, got together with Department of Defense and put on an SBIR conference where the subject of the conference was the SBIR program. And a lot of small companies with SBIR capabilities came, they exhibited, and we also had the large companies there. And in addition, the Department of Defense was there. My association doesn't do that much with NASA, but those are the kinds of things that we need to do to get the word out. Also, one of my recommendations has to do with the admin fee. To the extent that somebody's managing an SBIR project, a 1% admin fee doesn't allow you to do very much, but if you had a higher admin fee, it gives you a capability as a project manager to reach out more. And so that's one of the things that we think needs to be done. So.